On the third day, there was a wedding in Cana of Galilee. The mother of Jesus was there. Jesus and his disciples had also been invited to the wedding. Now, when the wine gave out, the mother of Jesus said to him, "They have no wine." And Jesus said to her, "Woman, what concern is that to you and to me? My hour has not yet come." His mother said to the servants, "Do whatever he tells you." Now, standing there were 6 stone jars of water for the Jewish rites of purification, each holding 20 or 30 gallons. Jesus said to them, "Fill those jars with water." And they filled them up to the brim. He said to them, "Now draw some out and take it to the chief steward." And so they took it. When the steward tasted the water that had become wine, he did not know where it came from, though the servants who had drawn the water knew. The steward called the bridegroom and said to him, "Everyone serves the good wine first, and then the inferior wine once the guests have become drunk. But you have kept the good wine until now." Jesus did this, the first of his signs, in Cana of Galilee, and revealed his glory, and his disciples believed in him. Nathan, if you would.
But it's only the first day?
Yes, and it's all gone. Not a drop left.
Mother, my time has not yet come.
If not now, when? Please. Do whatever he tells you.
Fill these jars with water.
I'm not sure you heard her clearly, but we've run out of wine, not water.
These are similar in size to your amphorae.
The prudent monks, yes. Equally filled all the way to the brim.
You're a very responsible person, aren't you?
We are in a crisis, and I was led to understand you have a solution.
Do you know why jars for purification rites are made of stone?
What?
You heard me.
Because the stone is pure. Less likely to stain or break, that can't be made unclean.
Yes. Fill these jars with water all the way to the brim.
Why?
You heard him. Start drawing water, quickly. Tell anyone you find to stop what they're doing and help.
From the directions you have provided, I see no logical solution to the problem.
It's going to be like that sometimes, Thomas.
What did you say?
I do not rebuke you. It is good to ask questions, to seek understanding.
There's not time for this.
I know of a man like you in Capernaum. Always counting. Always measuring.
That's my job. And that people will think I have not done well tonight.
Join me, and I will show you a new way to count and measure. A different way of seeing time.
Go with you where? I don't understand.
Keep watching.
Masonry seems like harder work.
It isn't harder, it's just more, final. If the smith wants to change the horseshoe or the plowshare or the pothook, he has only to put the iron back into the fire and reshape it to fit his designs.
They're full.
Everyone, please step outside. Just for a moment, Thomas.
Once you make that first cut into the stone, it can't be undone. It sets in motion a series of choices. What used to be a shapeless block of limestone or granite begins its long journey of transformation. And it will never be the same.
I'm ready, Father. Go draw some out and serve it to the master of the banquet.
Promise you, more wine is coming.
Oh, it's about time.
The latter vintage, sir.
Good, good. Let's have a taste. Stop the music! Stop the music! Everyone, listen! I have something I would like to say. I would like to address the bridegroom and the bride families. At every wedding I've ever overseen, they serve the best wine first. And then, when the people have drunk freely, much later in the feast, they serve the poorer wine, the cheap stuff. Because by then, who is going to notice? Am I right? But you have chosen now to serve the best wine I have ever tasted. Let us thank them for this unnecessary but honorable gesture. At the wedding of Asher, son of Rafi and Dinah, to Sarah, daughter of Abner and Hila, be as pure and as fruitful as this wine. Blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who brings forth the fruit of the vine. To Asher and Sarah!
Is something wrong?
Yes. I was.
I like a wedding. I've done hundreds, literally. I mean, being the pastor of a small town in the place like the Napa Valley, you can imagine, people from all over the world come here to be married. And, fortunately, having been a pastor of a church in the Napa Valley, I did a lot of weddings. And I liked every one of them. I love weddings. Actually, a couple of people here with us this morning, Aaron and Simon, would you guys stand up for a second? And I married them in France, And apparently the sacrament took because look what they got. And it was one of the greatest weddings I've ever celebrated. And thanks, guys. And, in the back of the church, our videographer, our video producer, Nathan Schwab, he and Michelle were married. I had the privilege of joining them in holy matrimony. And I baptized Nathan and their son together here in the sanctuary. All of you probably remember quite clearly. Weddings are great. Weddings are big. And weddings are big. They're big for us. They were bigger in antiquity. They were occasions for people to really, pull out all the strings. And, people spend a great deal of money, but, reputations hang in the balance, and families. And, we don't live in an outwardly shame and honor culture, although there's a lot of shaming and honoring that does go on. But in antiquity, to run out of wine is a bad situation. But, the story is rich, isn't it? Isn't it a great story? And it's so familiar that you forget about how rich it is. But, John never calls anything of this nature a miracle. He calls them signs. And they are events which point beyond themselves. John pays almost no attention whatsoever to the miracle, to the changing, to how it happened. And I notice that director of this particular scene doesn't either. Everybody leaves the room, the water changes, Jesus does a couple of things with his hand and says, take it out to the steward. But, the story begins on the third day. What's that about? Why does John say on the third day? Is that 324 chronicle hours of time that have passed since when? All of a sudden, 3 days later, and he's at a wedding. And his mother comes up to him and says, they have no wine. She's a guest at the wedding. You ever been at a guest at the wedding when the food was bad? This food is terrible. They're out of wine. Is it your job to make sure that everything goes well at somebody else's wedding? And what about the relationship between the mother and son? I mean, woman, why do you care? Why should I care? We're here at a wedding. And then fill the jars. What is it about the jugs of water? The purification. And the quantity. Oh my God. Do they really need 180 gallons of wine? Cain is a small village. I've been to it several times in the little church where, people go, and it's amazing to go to the church in Cana where, the miracle is reputed to have been close to. And there's always, a long line, just one party after another. Some of the women dressed in their things and the grooms and all that kind of stuff. Many that have been married for years and years and years coming to renew, but one party after, they just cycle them through, And, and then there's a gift shop, always a gift shop. And you can buy wine. Little bottles, large gallon. And I'm telling the caretaker at the little gift shop, because my daughter was getting married. I said, well, I'd better get some wine, from Cana. So I picked up a little bottle of wine, and I was just engaging the shopkeeper there in a little dialogue. And I said, yeah, my daughter's getting married, and I thought it'd be great. He said, whatever you do, don't drink this stuff. This is not the wine that Jesus made, okay? This stuff is rot gut. I mean, really. Never even open it in public. So I still have the little bottle, which I did bring to the wedding. But the wedding, my daughter's wedding, was interrupted, as life has been, by COVID. They were supposed to get married in the fall of 2020, about 6 months after everything locked down. And so, their lives changed. They tried 3 or 4 different options and wound up being an answer to my prayer, because they got married at the church that my daughter grew up in, which I thought was appropriate. But, okay, so you have these jars. What about that? And the purification things. And what's going on here? What's going on here? This is a big deal. John wants us to pay attention to this. And there are no explanations. No explanations. What the third hour is, why a wedding, why Cana. Cana. Nowhere. I mean, really. Here's a big circle. It's called nowhere. Where's Cana? Right in the center. Why a wedding? Who gives a rip about 2 kids that are going to get shamed in a small town? Really? And the relationship between mother and son. What is it about this? My hour is not yet come? That's interesting. My hour is not yet come. I found it fascinating. Maybe you did, that the young man Thomas in the movie. Actually, there's a little bit of beforehand, and you find out that Thomas and his wife, that the young woman that was trying to coach her husband, Thomas winds up being the Apostle Thomas. And it's interesting how, his job is to kind of make sure that there's enough wine, and there's been a glitch and the wine hasn't showed up, and this guy's reputation is on the line, and he's not buying into it at all. And, his part in all this is going to lead to him becoming a disciple. He's going to understand something as a result of this, and that's what John wants us to do too. Understand something as a result of this that points way, way beyond itself. This has very little to do with a wedding at Cana in Galilee. This has everything to do with a relationship between humanity and divinity. Weddings are signs. I mean, a man and a woman, young, future filled with hope, get together, everybody. I mean, there's a spirit at weddings that's not present anywhere else. If you were an angel, let's say you were an angel, and you had the opportunity to hang out on the planet, where would you go? You'd go to where the love is. You'd probably hang out at a wedding. I've often told people at weddings, if you think that the only people here are the ones that you can see, I don't believe that. I think there's a whole aura that happens around weddings. Why? Because it's maybe one of the closest times when we get to see the veil between humanity and divinity, becoming very translucent. God is at work somehow in relationships. And for human beings, weddings are pretty cool. Pretty cool. And so there's something that's being pointed to here that's, for a guy like Thomas, prone to doubt, Not quite sure. But when they took it to the steward, why does there have to be so much? And why does it have to be so good? You know, here's the deal, okay? As a planet, we're out of wine. No joy. No joy. Everybody's getting sick or about to. All the plans you've had about, oh, I'm going to travel here and go there and do this and do that and eat with them and party over here, stop it. No joy. No joy. And who is it that points it out? Who is it that represents humanity? Mom. Mom. They have no wine. Mom's looking down and saying, look at these people, they have no wine, there's no joy. And, you know, the greatest rhetorical question of all time. What is that to you and to me? It's everything. What about infinite compassion? Does Mary care that we're out of wine? Does Jesus care that we're out of wine? That's a good question. That's a good question. Is there grace upon grace? Is there a reality other, beyond, higher than, more intimate than the pandemic? I don't know. You tell me. You tell me. That's your choice. That's your choice. And you know, all over the planet, there are people just locked in fear. I mean, they're in prisons that are far, far more effective than anything San Quentin could come up with. Fear does that to people. But, you know, here's a story that comes to us on the second Sunday in John, and this is the first. You know, and you can speculate. Was this really the first time that Jesus really opened the door on what he was all about? Did he know at the wedding that he would wind up dying? That this would cost him? That everybody would have plenty and more than they needed? I don't know. And so, you know, John, in John's way, is offering us a meditation to think about this story and have it come alive for us. You know, I've been watching some of the interviews. I mean, I'm really not a big fan of visual representations of the Gospels. I don't think Hollywood has served the Bible well. I don't think really there's a lot of artists. I mean, from Michelangelo on down that have done justice to the love of God, infinite compassion and mercy. But they've seen it through their own eyes and portrayed it with their own imaginations, and we should too. Not what does this mean, but what does it mean to you? And what it means to me is that God cares. What it means to me is that the pandemic doesn't win. Never has, never will. And I think it's a message that the church needs to hear. The source is infinite and abundant. Grace upon grace. Grace upon grace. Not just a little bit, but more than enough, always. But this is the interior work that we're called to. This is the end result of our striving, seeking to improve our conscious contact, to be aware of a reality that's greater than the one that you can see and touch and feel and smell and hear. It's deeper. And the story, I don't know, draws me in. I want to go deeper. I want to feel it. I want to know. I want to experience. I want to experience it. You know, I just feel that I want to wrap this all up in prayer. And Lord, I thank you this morning for John's gospel and his take on this story, and the way that it has made its way into the tradition and the way it continues to make its way into our hearts. And, there are times in our lives, and I know it's true for every single human being in this room, when they have been out of wine, no joy. And it looks like the party is over. But you always have the last say. And even when your son had been in a sealed tomb, the stone was rolled back and out he came. And out he continues to come. And so, we're grateful. We really are. We're grateful for your love and for the abundance of your grace. And we ask you to be generous. Pour it into our hearts. Turn the water, the ordinary moments of our lives, into wine, so that our hearts may be filled with joy. And we can spread a little around, because the planet has need for more. And all this we ask in the name of the one who pulled it off in the middle of nowhere at a wedding in Cana of Galilee. Amen. Okay, that was fun, huh?
Contributions to St. Luke's Episcopal Church help to make the digital ministry and other outreach within the community possible. If it is in your heart to make a donation, St. Luke's secure PayPal link, as well as the church's mailing information, may be found in the description of this video. Thank you.